So we're going to talk about Ephesians 2:15 here briefly. It was brought up on the website, and this person is trying to criticize Paul and say that Paul was the Antichrist and he wasn't an apostle, and that we should throw out all his writings. There are some people who believe this, but that's because they misunderstand Paul exactly the same way that the false teachers in all these false churches of the apostate churches, how they also misunderstand Paul. So both groups of people misunderstand Paul in the same way but come to a different conclusion. So let's have a look at this verse because it's very important. This is one of the verses on which they found their rejection of Paul. So this is the rooted word translation. Ephesians 2:15. The hostility in his flesh, the law of commandments in dogmatic decrees, making accordingly without action, in order that the two may be fabricated in himself into one new human being, making peace. Now, this is a little difficult, so I'm going to work it right in front of you here. This is the literal translation. This is the order of the Greek. So it's a little hard in English because the clauses are tripping us up. So a better way to put this is that the hostility, comma, in other words, or you can put it in parentheses even better, the law of the commandments in dogmatic decrees in his flesh, making accordingly without action. Okay? And then the rest. The rest is okay. So let me just copy and paste through this line here. The rest is okay. It's just that first half that's tripping us up. Okay? So the hostility, the law of the commandments in dogmatic decrees, in his flesh making accordingly without action. What's tripping us up here is this making. All right? So it's a participle, so it's kind of hard because it actually is functioning as an actual verb more than a noun at this point, because participles are both verbs and nouns. Some are a little more one way than the other based on their usage in the sentence. So let me just look quickly at the grammar of this. This is katargesas, and that is in the aorist active participle. So we're going to have a look at this again. And makes. If it weren't a participle and it were just aorist active, it would be makes. And so since it's more of a verb here, requires more of a verb, we're going to make it into a verb. Makes accordingly without action. In his flesh. The hostility in his flesh he makes accordingly without action. He makes Yeah, I guess that's the best we can do with that. I'd rather keep it in the front because the kata is on the front as a prefix. But we can put it on the end. Let's see. It makes a little bit better sense. So the hostility, the law of the commandments in dogmatic decrees, in his flesh he makes without action accordingly, in order that the two may be fabricated in himself into one new human being, making peace. So the hostility is from the dogmatic decrees that arise out of the commandments of the law. But dogmatic decrees they're human opinions about how to apply those. Those dogmatic decrees are a judgment this expressed through human opinion. That's what those are. And it has created hostility. And so Christ, that is what Christ has made accordingly without action. All right? It's not nullified. It's not abolished. It's not murdered or killed on the cross or something like that. That's not what this passage says. To make accordingly without action. All right? So it's kind of like saying that it's made it impotent. Okay? So the hostility, the law of the commandments in dogmatic decrees, in his flesh he makes impotent, in order that the two may be fabricated in himself. So that hostility he makes impotent. The hostility that comes out of dogmatic decrees. That's what this is saying. It's not the dogmatic decrees he makes impotent. It's the hostility. Keep that in mind. The hostility is from the dogmatic decrees, for sure. But it's not saying that he makes the dogmatic decrees impotent. It's saying he makes the hostility impotent that arises out of those dogmatic decrees. So that's what this is saying here. Let's keep our focus on it and not get confused, right? And think that that applies to law. Like he's saying that law is done away with in order to make the two one. That's not true. The commandments, no, they're not done away with either. The dogmatic decrees even are not done away with. The hostility is what is immobilized. And that's the truth. Now, if you want to look at this in the bigger picture of the gospel, then you realize that what happens to a Christian because of the crucifixion of Christ and because of his resurrection and the coming of the Holy Spirit into the individual's life and into the individual is that he begins to walk in righteousness and stops sinning. And when that happens, there is no hostility against him from any law, because he is fulfilling the righteous requirements of the law. So in that case, also you could say the hostility of the law, the commandments, the dogmatic decrees, all three become impotent for this person, because this person, through Christ, through the Holy Spirit, is now fulfilling the righteous requirements of the law by walking according to the Spirit, by not sinning, by carefully walking with him and turning left or right or doing this or that throughout the day in order to do what is right and pleasing to the Father. That is what is right, not what we think is right. So keep this in mind, keep that in focus, and may the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart. Remember to subscribe down below and like the video and share it on your Facebook and other social media. And then make a comment, whether a question or a comment. We read all of them, and we try to respond to all. Get on over to our website, The Rooted Word, and start reading the translation and also the articles that we've posted. It's at therootedword.com, therootedword.com. And may the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.